Hello, everybody. I'm really excited about today's interview. We're going to be speaking with somebody who does tool-assisted speedruns, which we'll get into a huge conversation about. But I'm really excited to introduce MemoryTAS. Memory, first, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, when did you start playing video games, and what was like your first experience with video games?
All right. So I'm Memory, a taster, not only a taster, but I'm a current judge and judge for tasvideos.org, which means I'm staff there. Um, my first experience with video games, I'm not entirely sure which came first. So I remember going to these parties as a kid, and in their basement they had a SNES with Super Mario World. However, I also remember going to like art to an arcade a bunch and playing a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade. And I also remember playing a lot of PC PC licensed games and like educational games. So I don't remember what came first.
That is so cool. I have to tell you, the Ninja Turtles arcade game might be just one of my favorite arcade games of all time. I think if
Oh,
I
it's
was
great.
ever to get a cab in my house, that might be the one.
Same.
It's so awesome. Okay, cool, awesome. So that's great. You have a lot of early memories about that. You mentioned. So okay, let's. There's so much I want to ask you about tasking, but first, tell me exactly what is like a tool-assisted speedrun. What is that?
All right. So a tool assist speed run, it's basically in the name. Like you use tools, typically emulator tools, but there are other methods. Like there's this relatively new tool called libtas for Linux, and they've been doing a bunch of like PC games like that people have heard of, like Shovel Knight, like Celeste, etc. With other games like have like tools like made specifically for them, but for the most part, people use emulators. And emulators may have tools like slowdown, frame advance, save states, viewing RAM, and the ability to set up scripts. One relatively recent trend in tool-assisted speedrunning is the advent of piano roll editors. So, if you're familiar with the concept of like music, like a lot of modern music like uses like piano, like electronic music, especially uses like piano roll
Yeah, yeah.
like style editors. And we pretty much do the same thing with tasking, where like you have this huge list of frames and the inputs on each frame, and you can modify each frame individually.
Oh, that is so cool. I didn't. Have any of those been published on task videos? Like, have those been
Oh
judged and
yeah.
everything? Oh
Um,
man.
like the BizHawk has a tool in it called TAS Studio, which is a piano roll style editor.
That is so cool. I had no idea that. Okay, now I'm gonna have to go go checking some of that stuff out when we get done here. That sounds so cool. What kind of like what was appealing to you about using tools to speedrun a game? Because it's kind of a I wasn't aware of it until I found the internet. Until I probably saw TaskBot on Games Done Quick or something like that. But I'm curious what appealed to you.
So I kind of got into it in a way that's different from a lot of other people. A lot of people like I tend to hear like, oh, I wanted to make a task, and so I or wanted to learn about tasking, so I got into it. I, my method, my introduction to tasking was kind of like more gradual.
Hmm.
So basically, and this kind of delves into like how I got into my first task, but like basically I got into tasking through glitch hunting. So like
Ah.
so basically I wanted to know like what could be possible with the game, and like I didn't have any capture card. I didn't particularly want to play on emulator, so like real time at least.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? Let's try tasking, and
It
that's basic. And then I got hooked into it since.
That is so awesome. And I'll tell you right up front that I'm super thankful that you did because you were able to you've provided so many tasks to the Bonk community already. It seems like a really time consuming process to do it well. And let's talk a little bit about like Bonk's Adventure. Like how we're watching, if you're watching on the video, you can see I'm running the Bonk's Adventure task. And I'm curious, how long did it take you to task a game like Bonk's Adventure on the PC Engine?
All right, I think like a month or two. I forget exactly how long, but I also had some. All right, in the case of PC Engine Bonk's Adventure, I notably had prior experience doing the NES version first, and that helped a lot
Uh,
because like I got, even though there's a ton of differences, like I still like it taught me a lot of concepts that could like transfer over.
Oh, very cool. So like when you're doing Bonk, then is it something where you're playing the game like frame by frame, or being that you've already done the NES, did you have some tools that may have, or some tricks, I'm sorry, that may have helped out in doing the PC Engine one?
All right, so whenever I can, so whenever a system is supported by BizHawk, that means I'll use BizHawk, and two, I'll use Task Studio. So that helps a lot for one. And then for two, pretty much any game I do, I also look up RAM addresses, stuff like speed and position, especially. Those were especially important for Bonk's Adventure because like that lets me know, like speed and position. And
It is so okay. I just recently found RAM watching, and I'm curious. Like, is it something where like are you looking for the RNG elements, or are you looking like you said speed and position? Is there anything else that watching the RAM values can help in producing a task?
boss HP values often. Um, like invincibility. It there's there's so many ways that RAM addresses can help.
It's super
But
interesting because it's a completely different way of thinking about the game. And from what I've been told, especially with games that are from the 8 and 16-bit era, basically every game you can look at the RAM values for it and use it, like you said, to boss HP and things like that. So for every task that you've done, including like the Nintendo and all the Nintendo Bonk, and now I believe your Bonk 3 is published. Yeah, Bonk 3 is
yeah.
published. Those are all games you were tasking that you were actually looking at the RAM values as well.
Oh, absolutely. Um, one common thing I do is um, like have like a benchmark frame value, like frame number,
Mm-hmm.
and then like I write down the position values for that frame, and then I try something else and compare against the initial frame values, like
Ah,
position values, and
right.
like that's like one huge thing. Like there's so many ways that RAM addresses are useful.
Yeah, no kidding. It sounds fascinating, and the person who I was watching encouraged kind of like everyone, if you're speedrunning RTA or if you're tasking something to, it's something that's really useful information. You probably should check it out. And I'm like, I didn't even know where to start, but it sounds awesome. Okay, so here's the $1 million question: why the hell did you even decide to task a bonk game in the first place?
So, all right, I was initially considering. All right, so one thing about me is that I really like tasking, and I also really like TASes. So, like, I watch a lot of TASes. Like, I have like rated like 950 something TASes on TAS videos,
Oh, it's so cool.
but like I watch a lot of TASes, and one of them I watched was Bonk's Adventure, and I noticed like some little things in the game that's like, huh, is that really the best way to do that? And it's like through experience with tasking, I like kind of like get better and better at noticing those kinds of things. And like I noticed that with Bonk's Adventure, but I was working on other things at the time, so I put it off. And then somebody submitted a task of the Nest Bonks Adventure,
Oh, interesting.
and that task wasn't great. Like it, I ended, I was, it was a relatively early task submission that I judged, and I ended up rejecting it from task videos.
Hmm.
And because I kept finding improvements with it,
Got it.
like it turns out like he didn't realize that it was submission for publication.
Oh, interesting.
So basically he wasn't ready for, the level of like quality checking.
Right. Well,
But I I like I went on, like was working on something else, but that game ended up being incredibly laggy and frustrating. But so I was thinking, what? That Bonks Adventure game might be fun. One of the reasons I claimed that game specifically was because of the hover mechanics. Like,
Yeah.
like I I had done another tasks before which had a form of hover mechanics, so I was kind of interested in like that concept. And like, Bonk, like mash the headbutt button in midair and you pretty much slowly float down. And it's like, you know what? I'm really curious what you can do with this. And so I made the first, like the task of Bonk of the Nest version. And then after I was done, the tasker of the original PCE version was like, "Wow, this is really cool. You should try um the PCE version. There's a big skip that somebody pointed out to me." And I'm like, "All right, I'll try it." And then I tasked the entire series.
And here you are, a gajillion Bonks games later. You mentioned the hover mechanic, and if you don't mind, maybe I'd like to talk about it just a little bit because it's we have the once again we have the task up, and it almost looks like you never touch the ground. When you're doing the spin and the hover in the PCE version, does the momentum increase as you hit an enemy, or what's like? And first, how did you discover all this? But secondly, how does that mechanic work, and why is it really beneficial to the run of this game?
All right, so basically in the Bonk's Adventure engine, I should say, because Bonk's Adventure PCE, Bonk's Adventure NES, and Bonk 3 all use the same engine, basically. So, not Bonk's Revenge and Bonk and Super Bonk both use a different engine. They're both made by the same developer, Red.
Oh, interesting.
So, so that's why they use the same engine.
Very cool.
But the but Bonk's Adventure basically has like a sort of speed level system. Like if you walk, you'll slowly build up to 4 speed, and if you jump and land on the ground, you get reset back to 3 speed. However, there's ways of getting up to higher speeds. Like one of the common ways is like abusing a meat that will get like if you get to like the highest level meat, you will get up to 6 speed. Oh, X speed, that is.
Right.
Y
Right.
speed is independent.
Interesting.
Um, but the fastest way outside of a couple levels is flower boost. So if you hit a flower from like these flower buds from the side, it will then like recoil. You'll recoil off it, and go up to 7 speed. And that is the fastest you can get outside of ice slopes. With ice slopes, you can get like unlimited speed depending on how long the slope is.
That's why you go so fast in the TAS. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And but the key is no matter what speed you're going, if you hit the ground, you're going to go back to the 3. So the floor is lava.
The cardinal rule: the floor is lava.
So in order to keep the speed for as long as possible, you want to just like bounce off enemies, even take damage if you need to. Just don't hit the ground.
You mentioned the flower boosting, and it's something we can actually do RTA, and it's one of my favorite mechanics I think I've ever done in a speedrun because it actually has a little bit of it allows you to actually jump and actually get the speed boost and everything like that. But it's really fun just to hit the spring and then jump up and jump into your spin. It really you can get a lot of speed doing that. It sometimes even seems faster than with meat.
Oh, it absolutely is. It like meat is 6 and flower boosting is 7.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so there actually is a speed difference. That's awesome.
Yeah, so whatever possible, I prefer flower boosting, but sometimes like the level just isn't conducive to that.
Right. And Uber Disco is mentioning in
Whatever
the
thing,
go ahead, Tess.
one other thing about flower boosting that's kind of annoying. For whatever reason, you can only hit it every other frame. So sometimes you just whiff.
Me all the time. I whiff all the time hitting those damn things. Okay,
It,
that
it's
makes so
just,
much
it's
sense.
just, it's just a 50-50. Like every other frame it works. I don't know why, but every other frame it works. In the tasks, I I consider it like a frame rule kind of. Like, all right, if I can't make it on this frame rule, I'll go a little further past the flower and then like headbutt. So like I headbutt just on the right frame and but I keep moving.
Okay, memory. My mind is literally blown right now. I can't believe I didn't real because I've been so pissed because I'll sit at a flower off the reset, especially if it's if it's in round
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So
Like you just whiff. And it's like, huh? For some reason, like the hitbox will only like last for 1 frame or something. I don't know. Like, but you just miss for seemingly no reason. And it's very much a thing.
Uber Disco's in the chat and he's going through. He says he knows my pain. We go through the same stuff, but it is when it works. It's a really fun and interesting mechanic that I think sets the game apart as far as a speed game goes
Oh
because
yeah.
there's nothing really like it I've played before.
One thing I particularly like is like game like you notice this with a lot of my choices of tasks, like games, is
Mm-hmm.
that I like games with interesting movement mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And like Bonk, uh, like with the power boosting, that's like really obvious to me. Like, oh, that's really cool.
You mentioned and it's easy. You've published the Bonk 3 TAS as well, and you mentioned it has the same engine as the Bonk's Adventure TAS. Were you able to carry over any of the things that you had learned from Bonk's Adventure over to Bonk 3?
Oh, absolutely. Um, that made it a lot easier to like transition.
Interesting, cool.
Um, like familiar concepts, but with very different level of design and also wall jumping.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the wall jumps. Oh, yes, man. There are so many. Seems like there's a lot more in Bonk 3 for some reason. I'm not sure if that's true, but
Um, so in Bonk 3, uh, wall jumping sets your speed to 5. Max walk speed is 4.
oh.
So if I don't have a better option, I'll just wall jump.
That makes a lot of sense. That's the if it's especially if it's a number a full point faster than walking. So you mentioned that you're a judge at tasvideos.org. First of all, tell us what does a judge? Well, I guess tell us a little bit about the site because I always find tasvideos.org fascinating. Like yourself, I can easily get caught down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden, a couple hours of my life are gone because I've watched so many games. But what is the site? And then and tell us what you do as a judge.
So basically, the site is like you know, one of the obvious features is a compilation of tools as speedruns. Like we accept submissions, we we post various encodings, like encodes of the TASs, like videos, and we also publicly post the input files for the TASs. So in a typical TAS, like the TAS file isn't like a video or anything, it's a series of inputs. So like frame one, you press start. Well, actually, frame zero, you press power on
Right.
by default.
Uh,
But let's say like frame 50, you press start, and then no matter what, like so when you replay it back, it'll go to frame 50 and press start. Like it's like a like you choreograph it kind of.
mhm.
And so a task file is a series of inputs, and like you can play it back on your emulator, and you can modify it yourself if you want to.
It's almost like open source. That's so cool.
Yeah, pretty much. But
And so,
we have the input files public, so anybody can download them. Any and like look at them, like maybe look into improvements, look into whatever. Like, oh, look into the inputs. Like, huh? Like I see these inputs. Maybe I can apply something like this for RTA, something like that. And we also have like a bunch of forums for like the creation of TASs. We have game resources pages, address lists, user files for like whips and Lua scripts, and
for
we have a Discord and an IRC.
I have to tell you that all of, at least in the games that I've actually spent a lot of time with, my favorite thing is the task notes. I find that, and they're usually quite in depth, and they're so helpful to an RTA runner. And we'll get into a little bit right after this about how much tasking actually helps speedruns real time. When you submit a task to be judged on task videos, are extensive notes, or is that something that's kind of expected with it, or is that part of the process? Because I found the among everything else, but is all that stuff part of the process of submitting and kind of expected?
It's not required, but it's very nice when it happens.
Okay.
So as a judge, I look at new submissions and decide like, um, one, is it acceptable? Like, is it good? Does it follow the rules? And two, like, I decide the tier based on like audience response and my personal opinion of like entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Because like one thing we can do like as a task, it's like there's not just like we don't just like an auto scroller is more than just a time where you have to wait.
Right.
We also love to like show off during them.
The swag strats.
Yeah, but um,
So I
but as a judge, like notes can be really helpful because they can explain why people make certain decisions. Like sometimes you might like a task might run into a wall and it might seemingly serve no purpose. Without notes, I have no idea why it's doing that, and I'm thinking, all right, you're wasting your time. But say maybe it's setting up some glitch. Maybe. Maybe it's setting up RNG or subpixels. I don't know. Like, but I would find that out through the notes.
Uber Disco says the bonk moonwalk on T Ractor. Well, that's a you gotta have the swag, man. You know, it's a. So, as a judge, is there a set of criteria then you're using to evaluate a task, or it's like what is the tipping point, or what gets a task accepted as opposed to not?
So we have the movie rules, obviously, and also these sets of judge guidelines. But all right, obviously things need to follow the rules, though often we need to make adjustments to the rules because there are situations that we haven't foreseen.
Hmm, makes sense.
Like, one case there was a game where one of the forms of input was actually inputting CDs into the
Oh
system.
wow.
And like it was Monster Rancher
Oh
for the
geez.
PlayStation,
Hmm.
and like you could input CDs and you would get different like monsters or something, and like that wasn't quite a situation we had thought up.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that. That's an interesting strat. So cool that they did something like that. So I got to tell you that I am the bonk community is obviously we're pretty small. Those of us who speedrun it, whether it's a TAS or whether it's RTA, and it's been incredibly helpful to ask somebody like you and others who have tasked some of these games to, why did you do this? What is this? Do you think this might be RTA viable? Could we use this in a speedrun? And there's really I can't even, the value that a task brings to a real time attack speedrun is just, it's just awesome. How long have you been doing this? And does this, I mean, does this like, I feel like, I don't know if all video, like do all communities kind of have this with their tasks and RTA, do you know? Or at least the ones you've done?
Um, it depends. Like some community, like sometimes the testers are a little shot, like don't interact much with the RTA community. Sometimes there's a very close working relationship. Like even more than with speedrunning, I find like RTA speedrunning, I find like there's a lot of people in tasking that are like there's a huge Chinese tasser base,
Oh, cool.
but like there's a bit of a language barrier
Oh,
there.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And there's also some others that just don't interact much with the RTA scene. But I typically interact very deeply with the RTA scene. I basically came from RTA, like the RTA side of things, and then got sucked into tasking.
Okay, so I do follow you on Twitter, and I love I can kind of tell. It seems like I can kind of tell when you're actually working on a task. Your tweets are very specific to something that you're going through at the moment, and it always
Usually on what
yeah
or something.
it makes me laugh so much. I'm curious, what are you working on nowadays, and kind of what games are you looking to? I mean, do you even have any future plans, or what are you working on nowadays?
All right, so recently I just finished redoing my very first task.
Oh, cool. Which is that? What game is
So,
that?
Lego Bionicle for the GBA.
Very cool.
Um, so basically with that game, I kind of like somebody submitted a run to SDA, and I was like, kind of, and then I was like, I feel kind of bad about this. You know what? I'll just break it in half. Like the first thing I found was like this glitch that lets you like jump along the edges of the screen, and that lets you skip like three whole areas.
Nice. That is so cool.
And like, and then I kept finding glitches, and sometimes glitches kept finding me. Like, oftentimes I would accidentally, like, I mentioned not wanting to play on emulator.
Right.
Oftentimes I would accidentally press the wrong button, and then I'd find a glitch.
That's so awesome. Oh, yes. Uber asks again. No Uber skip. We have a little skip that we found in the in round one in the water room because the way the memory can scroll through the water, she actually moves faster through the water with the task than actually doing the little skip at the top there. So that's incredible that you're actually revisiting a game like that and breaking it open. Basically, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know if you have an estimate yet, but I'm going to imagine that you're saving tons of time compared to your
Oh, I
original
already
task.
finished it.
Oh, you already finished. Okay, how much more time did you save? I'm
Like,
curious.
I saved like a minute.
Oh wow. Oh geez.
Well, well, all right. Actually, it's closer to like 30 seconds, but I'm going by task timing. So here's the thing. Task timing is typically done to last input
Okay,
because that's the end of the file.
that makes sense.
And in this game, there's a glitch that lets me basically end input 30 seconds early.
Oh my god. Wow.
Basically, the end is an auto scroller, but there's a way to glitch it so that you win no matter what.
There is. Doesn't matter what you do, you win.
Well, you can't do anything at that point.
Oh,
Like
gotcha.
you lose control, but and the game reacts very strangely. Um, Once I finish that, now I'm working on the game for the Dream Team contest. So basically, the Dream Team contest is this contest that's held every so often on taskvideos.org where people sign up for teams of like four, and then a mystery game gets revealed after the team signs ups are closed, and we all task that game within a time limit. And whoever has the fastest task at the end wins.
That is so cool. How long do you? What's the typical? Like, how long do you have to do it?
So this time we have until like January 22nd, I think.
Oh wow, okay.
And the host this time, like each Dream Team contest has a different host, and the host picks the game.
Oh okay.
I did the last one. The this current and obviously the host can't participate because they know the game ahead of time.
Yes, that would make sense.
But this time the host is Easy Games, who I'm sure you know.
He has been in the
He
chat before.
he also worked on me with the Bonks Revenge task, most notably. But um, he picked up a TurboGrafx 16 game actually.
Woohoo! Yes.
Genpei Tomaden or something like that. It's a port of this arcade game.
He mentioned the game to me, and I have never even heard or seen of that game. But it actually looks kind of fun. I'm curious. Are you enjoying tasking it?
Yeah, for the most part. Even though there's this one thing today that I found that made me really sad.
Oh no.
I can't say what it is
Oh yeah, of course,
because
of course.
all right,
Still going.
basically, one of the points of one of the big parts of this contest is like not sharing information until it's all over.
Right, right.
Like we only share it within our teams.
Of course, that makes sense. You're playing against each other.
Yeah. However, once the contest is over, then we collaborate and like try to get like a single task that has the best of everyone.
Oh, very cool. What a fun way to do some team tasking. That actually seems really cool.
Um, Last year I hosted the event and I chose Donald Land for Ness.
Donald, I've never heard of that one.
Um, there's this big thing like what you get the speed by jumping off of. All right, for some reason, Ronald McDonald is throwing apples in this game. I'm not sure why.
Not French fries or a Big Mac or
Nope,
anything.
nope. Apples that explode. And if you walk on them, you get a bit of speed, and you can jump off of them and get more speed.
Wow. Okay.
And you can go faster than the game floating.
Oh, that actually sounds like a cool mechanic.
So like you go further in the level, and then the game's struggling to update like the level, like the level collision and stuff in time. Like so you're redoing parts of the level kind of,
Right.
but
That's fascinating, actually. So, well, I think there. You mentioned at the very beginning of you really enjoy and just love tasking and watching them. I couldn't agree with you more about having. There's always something to watch on taskvideos.org, and I highly recommend if you have a moment, take a look at start with just memories tasks because there's quite a few to begin with, and obviously there's some in the future. Will the tasks from this competition be posted? Will they be published to taskvideos.org, or is it something that's just kept in social? How does that work?
so the individual teams tasks will be like posted on the forums and stuff,
Cool.
but the like eventual like culmination like best of everybody will be hopefully submitted to the site.
Ah, very cool.
However, this game is kind of not sync friendly, so have fun, Colin.
Good
Have
luck.
fun combining every. So what like in this case, combining everybody's into one will be challenging.
I can only imagine. I got to tell you that.
Like
Good.
one thing like that could like there's a bunch of things that can make like syncing tasks difficult, like subpixels, RNG, and this game has a one of at least one of them.
I do have to tell you that when Great John and I started running Bonks Revenge, we almost started basically at the same time. You know, we had an older TAS, and it was actually it was really helpful for a place to start. There was only one other submission on the leaderboard, and so we really didn't know what we were doing. And their TAS was available so that we could start trying out some of the strats in the TAS. And then you and Easy Games, I believe it was both of you, who did the Bonks Revenge TAS.
Yeah. So
and
basically, Easy started the TAS,
okay,
and then
cool.
I had finished with Bonk's Adventure at the time, so I took a look at his TAS and found additional improvements. And then I fell through a log, and then I found a way to build up speed forever on conveyor belts.
Right. Well, it came along at the perfect time where we were able to, first of all, talk with both of you as we're doing this, but then secondly, to see things that we hadn't thought of, or to try some things. And while there's not a game breaking glitch or anything like that, at least that we found in Bonks Revenge, it was super helpful to know some of the strats that you could do in a tool assisted speed run that we could try. And I don't know. It kind of changed my thought process when approaching speedrunning, and I think that's one of the coolest and awesome things about tassing is that it lends itself towards creativity. It really there are really things that you don't even think about until you pop them into a tool assisted speedrun. It seems like,
yeah, like creativity is part of like why I love tassing. Like I just love seeing creative things, like creative solutions to problems. Like I like I I love to see like, all right, here's a problem. Let's try and find the best way around it. Like that's part of why I love doing it. Like it's the problem solving aspect to me.
I couldn't agree. That's so cool. That's awesome. It seems like a really pretty, especially if that's the way like you like approaching things. I think that's pretty awesome about what tassing offers. I thank you so much, Memory, for taking the time. If people want to find some of your work, where can they find some of the stuff that you do?
All right.
Do you want to? Do you have a Twitter that anybody can follow, or would you like to throw out the tasvideos.org? Where would you prefer?
There's at MemoryTAS on Twitter. There, I have, as a staff member, I'm required to have a page on TAS videos,
Cool.
which is like tasvideos.org. I don't remember the URL.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and good luck with your future endeavors. I can't wait to see.
tasvideos.org/memory.html.
There we go. Okay. tasvideos.org/memory/.html. So that's where you can see all of Memory's tasks, and there's quite a few at this point. So I appreciate it. Thank you, and good luck on the next task that we see from you. I can't wait.
Probably gonna be the Genpei Tomaden game.
Cool. Okay. Thanks.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the time where I wish I had some Japanese in me or somebody I could understand how to pronounce these things properly.